The biggest failure in the lore of Destiny 2 has returned again. The ancient knight pledging tribute to Xivu Arath appears inside the Pale Heart and has been demoted. Also, is the Herald of Finality in the new Salvation's Edge raid somehow tied to Taniks? Let's discuss. Kelgorath was originally a part of the Hidden Swarm on the moon. Now, the Hidden Swarm was already pretty messed up after the Guardians destroyed Crota in the Dark Below, but during Shadowkeep, Savathun's forces would invade and their sole job was to take out the remaining bloodlines. Kelgorath, a knight a part of Crota's forces, became enraged by this and vowed to follow the Sister of War Xivu instead of Savathun. The knight took part in exterminating Savathun's broods on Titan and was ordered to hunt her down in the Dreaming City during Season of the Lost. This was when our Guardian first encountered Kelgorath in gameplay. First in the opening mission as a simple knight, halfway through the season revived anew a bigger taken knight with a boomer weapon now, and then again as the final boss of the season. Here's those gameplay moments quickly.
Gotta be. Any taken signals falling on you.
A big Wrathborn headed your way too.
Be brave. Osiris is not far ahead.
Xivu Arath's subordinate came to my doorstep as a thief. Their death is the price of encroachment.
Xivu Arath is desperate. She's sending her new champion as a last resort.
Despite his failures, he kept coming back and would get promoted. It seems Xivu had a plan for him and somehow believed he could continue to lead her forces. In Season of the Seraph, Kelgorath returned as a Dark Blade in the Warmind Vaults of Mars. Xivu's forces and Kelgorath were after the Warmind technology, and Elsie Bray spoke about the knight's latest moves.
This knight attacked the Dreaming City when it harbored Savathun. He is one of Xivu's most trusted.
Good! His death will send a poignant message.
That knight we're facing, I've learned more. Their name is Kelgorath and serve as one of Xivu's lieutenants. The Hive here tithe to them. They say the knight is risen from bones, immortal. We'll see.
The next encounter would come months later in Season of the Deep in the depths of Titan. A wizard used a piece of the Taken King's sword to transform Kelgorath once more, thus he became taken from bones. Kelgorath kneels before a feeble altar in an empty court, a dead knight's realm, a shriveled, fleshless rind, a cautionary tale. A wizard floats over the altar. The High Celebrant's domain was once a grand place of adoration. It holds mighty tribute. The wizard Rockthrin, War Council, whispers Xivu Arath's bait to the knight. Kelgorath remembers how Savathun sought the sky and became its puppet, all so she could usurp sword logic. Favor wanes, it can be rekindled. You were disarmed, shamed, beaten so many times by a light wielder. Kelgorath stands, spinning to face Rockthrin. He thrusts a claw forward at the wizard's throat, but she swoops back from his reach. Kelgorath sneers, I need no blade. I am wielded. The plates upon my body are razors. Should you have remained with Savathun and prayed to her to give you the light, perhaps you would have found greatness then. You wither without her favor. I spit on the witch sister. I am an instrument of war. Not yet, not truly. Rockthrin conjures a dark bolt of lightning that saps the room's dim lighting and casts into the altar. The altar splits apart with a timbered snap, revealing an emerald sliver of a blade, bleeding shade and whispering rapture. A shard of the taken king's blade, conquered out of love, stolen away from Saturn's shadow. Kelgorath fixes upon the blade shard. The wizard gestures to it with a lipless smile, and the knight steps forward. I will take it, to be an instrument of her will, to cleanse the hate of weakness with loving violence. Kelgorath genuflects and closes his claws around the emerald sliver, wisps of shadow spilling between the gaps in his claws. I offer myself to this union. The barrier of his flesh melts away. A will not his own enraptures him. Kelgorath, risen from bones, taken by war. So while he has failed many times, he still kept his devotion to Xivu. She kept bringing him back. He rose from death, became taken, and tried many different tactics, but the Guardians won every time.
You know, this guy's pretty resilient. Wouldn't make a bad primeval.
In the Final Shape expansion, he's back once more, and it looks like he may have gotten a demotion this time. He went from Knight to Darkblade to Taken, and then just a regular Taken Knight, not the fancy one we saw in Deep. So not sure what's next for Kelgorath, unless this is truly his end this time, marking him as a failure. We saw in lore cards that even some of the Hive laughed at him, they didn't believe in him, and here we are at this moment. Now he's been brought back even though he wasn't taken, but Ikora said that all Taken return to the Ascendant Realm and start over when they die. Currently, as we see in this Knight form, he still is taken, so I guess there's a possibility he'll come back again. Next up, since we're on the topic of enemies returning and some of the greatest ones, let's talk about Taniks. Now, if you played the Final Shape in the Salvation's Edge raid, you may have encountered the Herald of Finality in the second encounter. Right away on the first day, many people were making comparisons to Taniks, the same type of head shape. Now, currently we don't have any lore that says this boss is Taniks or related to him in any way, but the design could have been a little nod towards Taniks and the memes created by the community over the years. So whether it is or not, let's talk about Taniks real quick. Taniks the Scarred has a long and storied history with the Guardian and the Destiny universe. Taniks was a fallen mercenary that began to implement cybernetic enhancements into his own body, becoming more machine than biological creature. We've had many encounters with the character over the years. He was there in the city for various battles, but also the Vanguard Dare battles against Andal and Cade. During the House of Wolves expansion, Taniks was hired by the Wolves to infiltrate and acquire Hive tech on the moon. This is when your Guardian would first encounter them in the Shadow Thief strike. We infiltrate the Ketch and push through the jammed comms and Wolves to take out Taniks once and for all, or so we thought back then.
Unsettling news. The Devil Splicers have used Xivu to resurrect an old foe. Taniks the Scarred has become Taniks Perfected.
Taniks' crew has joined the Splicers. They're using Xivu to reanimate his body and overtake his territory. Lord Saladin says you are indispensable in old Russia, Guardian. We thought you should be the one to handle this.
Soon later, in Rise of Iron, the Devil Splicers used Xivu to reanimate the cyborg Fallen once more. He would lead troops and Splicers and pick up where he left off in Wolves, once again destroyed on the moon.
He talks. How is that possible?
Maybe Taniks was more machine than we thought. He's not alive. Perhaps he never was.
If those moon encounters weren't enough, he returned as a nightmare in Shadowkeep, the darkness haunting and twisting the Guardian's past into horrifying realities. Then came Europa. Now, a big reason Taniks is able to constantly return is because he's more machine than Elixni at this point. That might make you think about Exos, and that's exactly what happened in Beyond Light. The Fallen were on the same path, and the first Fallen Exo was born in the Deep Stone Crypt known as Atrax I. Atrax and House Salvation rebuilt Taniks, and after he battled the Guardian in various encounters and becomes a hovering shank monstrosity, is destroyed again. So in the final shape, we face off against the Herald of Finality in the Salvation's Edge raid. As I mentioned, some people have been making some connections to Taniks given the head shape. Beyond that, we have no further clues to piece together that it's related to Taniks at all. There's no cloak, but there are some interesting things to note. We know the Witness and its disciples and now the new Dread Army have been sort of crafted here in the Pale Heart, these perfect creatures in the eyes of the Witness in their perfect shapes. Taking scions, making them perfected, possibly Hive, and even another species which became the Grimm. Maybe for some of these enemies like the Herald, the Witness looked at characters like Taniks and they're like, that guy kept coming back to life, maybe let's shape this new enemy off of him. That's just a fun theory, and then also at the end, apparently when you defeat the boss, part of the soundtrack plays the Shadow Thief theme, which is Taniks' theme from Destiny 1. So for the memes would be pretty cool, but this most likely is not Taniks at all. As always, Bungie could make up some lore in the future to tell us who this is, but we currently have no clue. I've seen some theories relating it to a Keld from the Whirlwind Chelchis, which is one of the Taken King weapons named after him, and that might be a good topic for another video, but for now, this is what we have for the memes. But Guardians, that's all we got for today's video, two of the most undying characters in Destiny history. If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.